Hey there, fellow marketers, Professor Wolters here, and today we're here in El Salvador, and today what we're going to talk about is positional mapping. This is basically kind of a visual map of how firms compare to other firms in their industry. So we can kind of see is how would we visualize ourselves in comparison to our competition. So McDonald's might want to compare themselves to Culver's, to Burger King, to White Castle, to Taco Bell, all these other fast food joints they want to see. But the thing is, you're going to come up with various criteria for your graph, okay? So you might have the old standby, price versus quality, high price versus low price, high quality versus low quality, and where do things fit in, right? But the thing is, you don't just do that. You might come up with other criteria. You might think of things like, maybe we have price versus quality, right? But you might also have price, high versus low, and then atmosphere, family friendly versus, romantic, right? And so we start plotting ourselves, and we plot our competition, where do they fit on here? And what we start to do is we start to see is, are there spots that aren't being met? If there's a niche out there that isn't really being catered to, and if we see that, hey, let's go to that niche and try to have a product there or have a business there or something like that. So if you think about it, let's think of our old buddy Chucky Cheese. I mean, how many of you went to Chucky Cheese when you were a kid for your birthdays, right? And I'm gonna guess when you were a kid, Chucky Cheese was in a strip mall somewhere. Why is that? Well, if you look at it in terms of restaurant, family friendly, right, versus romantic, and then we look at parking. Lots of parking, little parking. Have you ever noticed that there's not a lot of kid-friendly places that have very little parking? Why? Because usually when people have kids, they have multiple kids, right? So we got to bring not just the birthday boy or girl, but the brother, the sister, the cousin, and all this kind of stuff. So we need parking. And so we start to see for Chuck E. Cheese, they realize, hey, where can we get that parking we need? Because we see that, look, yeah, you got the McDonald's that are standing by themselves, their little parking lots, or your Five Guys burgers and fries that have a few parking spots, but there's nothing out there for a whole family to come and all the cousins and all the friends and their parents and stuff like that. And they see that, look, we can fit in that niche. Family friendly with a lot of parking because they need to have all that parking for the minivans and stuff like that. Boom, let's put our Chuck E. Cheese's right there in the strip mall. I mean, that's what they do. They kind of see these things. There's that whole niche that we're not going for. Or if we look in terms of restaurants, other kinds of restaurants, let's look at it in terms of selection. Lots of selection versus few selections. We look high price, we look low price. And what you tend to see is you have a lot of restaurants that are, high price in a specialty industry. So there's a high price fancy Italian restaurant, a fancy expensive German restaurant, a fancy high price French restaurant. So there's only a few things you can buy. It's just French food. It's just German food. And places like the Cheesecake Factory, they saw that, look, there's not a high price restaurant that has a wide selection. So what should we do? And if any of you have ever been to the Cheesecake Factory and they bring you the menu, I think they actually have to have two people bring it out to you because there's so many things on there. They realize, hey, we can charge this high price and have a wide selection for people to choose from because no one else is doing that. That's why everyone loves going to the Cheesecake Factory, because it doesn't matter what you like, they'll have something for you. And that really comes down to this positional mapping. They've mapped it out and saw, look, there's nobody doing this, let's go there. And so when you do this as a company, you're going to do multiple position mappings, not just price versus quality. It could be the atmosphere versus the price. It could be parking versus, like I said, high-low quality, high-low price, all kinds of stuff. You kind of fit it out. For example, here in El Salvador, I'm here at a surfer's place, right? And so for them, they already know that, look, people coming to El Salvador are looking for low-cost vacations. So I'm not looking for that. So what we need to have is, let's have it based on what places for surfers. That's who we want to go. So what are surfers looking for? Surfers are looking for good waves versus not very many good waves, and cheap accommodation versus expensive accommodation. Look, they want the cheaper with waves. Is there anything out there? So what did this place do? They built all these little huts for surfers, and surfers aren't looking for a lot. So the bathrooms, they're outside. The showers, they're outside. Because what do we want to do? Dude, I'm hitting the surf, man. And so we go out and surf because we saw that niche was available. Okay, so if you're going to do positional mapping for your company, really, you want to do it for a bunch of different criteria to kind of find, is there a niche we're missing? Okay, because it could be from family friendliness to anything for everybody or whatever. All right, so just kind of think about that when you are doing your positional mapping. So I hope this helps you understand better how positional mapping works. And if you want to learn more about marketing, we got plenty of videos on here. Hit that subscribe button. And we do all kinds of stuff to try to help businesses and students learn a little bit more about marketing. Bye from here in El Salvador. Very hot El Salvador, if you can't tell from my drippy wet hands. Yes. Because you could go like hot weather, cold weather. And is there any vacations that are all inclusive? We'll do that in another video. Anyway, bye from El Salvador.